Sunny, thank you. Thank you.
Chief.
Don't let me forget to give you your pen back. Mine.
Keep it quick. Oh, funny. This cracked me up.
Do you need me to try to find you a pen?
Oh,
I borrowed one from Julie.
Did you?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure to get it back to her.
yeah, super.
Looks like a high-quality, expensive pen.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, that's my husband's.
Guess what?
That's John's company.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is census?
Employee benefits.
It's his favorite.
What?
That's his favorite pen.
Oh, well, look it up. That's John's company.
I like this because of this, and then you can
Yeah.
tap.
Yeah.
So that's making a lot of so it doesn't sound like a pickleball court.
Okay, so we're not saying.
Were you able to hear what he was saying?
Thank you.
Yeah,
None of
I
us
thought
got
it was kind of
I
mushy.
was gonna say, is it one of the chiefs, meaning like a retired football player? Because I don't recognize any of them either.
Hi, Julie.
I would've been right.
How are you?
Did you change anything?
Oh, so you've seen him with the big beard,
All right.
a little less big.
It was shorter.
That's all.
Okay. It says it's live.
Baseball bat, and you're completely.
Oh, I'm gonna miss this.
Okay.
We're ready.
Are you ready?
Yes.
You are, okay. All right, good evening. This is Monday, November 6th. We're here for a governing body regular session meeting, and I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Dunn is present and presiding. Councilmember Osman.
Here?
Councilmember Larson.
Here.
Councilmember Harrison.
Here.
Councilmember Azeltine.
Here.
Councilmember Kane.
Here.
Councilmember Sippel.
Here.
Councilmember Rawlings.
Here.
Councilmember Phila.
Here.
All right, thank you. The second order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. So as you're able, would you please rise and we will face the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. The next order of business is the approval of the agenda. And I don't believe we have any modifications to the agenda as printed.
Move for approval?
Second.
So a motion from Mr. Rawlings and second from Mr. Sippel to approve as printed. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. Next, we go to citizen comments, and we've had two citizens who signed in to speak on item 10.
Council report.
Yeah, I think it says 10C, but I believe it's 10A, I think, because it says Brookwood School. So I will call on you when we reach Councilmember Phila's councilmember report, and you'll be allowed to address us at that time. There you are. Okay, thank you. And the next citizen who signed in to speak is just a public comment. So I will call your name, and if you'll come forward, please, and state your name and address for the record. Margaret Berger.
My name is Margaret Berger. I live at 2716 West 118th Street. I've been following the progress of the statute called REACHing through the governing body, and I just wanted to go through what I think I've heard, and if you want to correct me, I'd love to be corrected. The statute itself costs $200,000. The soil test to determine what kind of structure is needed to install the statue totaled $76,000 and was paid out in two payments, one of $26,000 and another of $50,000. The summary after the first round of tests suggested that the minimum cost of the installation would be $345,000. If that estimate is accurate, the statue will end up costing $621,000. Has the second round of soil test changed that estimate of $345,000, or have you received it? I don't know. In the last governing body, there was talk of possibly changing the location of the statue. If that occurs, would the new location require $76,000 worth of soil tests before an estimate of the installation cost could be determined? Also in that meeting, Councilman Rawlings pointed out that the current location, proposed location for the statue, Lee, and Mission occasionally smells. He is correct. The sewage treatment plant is notoriously unpredictable and is known to release noxious odors on numerous occasions throughout the year. It doesn't seem to matter whether it's the summer or the winter. So I would just, he got a little pushback on that, but he's correct on that. That area can smell pretty bad. And that was it.
All right, I would invite you to contact our city administrator tomorrow if you don't have time to stay
Okay.
this evening. That will be an agenda topic, and you'll probably have many of your questions answered during that time. But if not, Diane Stoddard would be happy to provide you the information you would like.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank you. We go now to number 5, Proclamation, World Pancreatic Cancer Day. And I understand Sunny Batten is present, and if you'd like to come forward, I will read this into the record and present it to you. Thank you for joining us this evening. Whereas in 2023, an estimated 64,000 Americans will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the U.S., and more than 50,000 will die from the disease. Whereas pancreatic cancer has the highest mortality rate of all major cancers. And whereas it is currently the third leading cause of cancer-related deaths in the United States after lung and colon, and it is expected to become the second by 2030. Whereas symptoms for the disease may include weight loss, abdominal discomfort, back pain, development of type 2 diabetes, and some tumors may cause jaundice. Whereas the good health and well-being of the residents of Leawood, Kansas are enhanced as a direct result of increased awareness about pancreatic cancer and research, as well as early detection, causes, and effective treatments. Now, therefore, I, Peggy Dunn, Mayor of the City of Leawood, Kansas, do hereby proclaim November 16th, 2023 as World Pancreatic Cancer Day. And Ms. Batten, if you would like to make any comments before I present you this, please feel free.
Yes, thank you. My friend, Andy Edgerton, was 37 years old when he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He described pancreatic cancer as one day he fell to the ground in the most immense pain that he ever felt and could not get up himself. He died 16 hours before his 40th birthday. In a conversation that I had with him in March 2017 here in Leawood, I made a forever promise to him that I would do whatever I could to raise awareness for pancreatic cancer until there is a cure. When Andy was alive, he had the idea to establish the Edgerton.Life Pancreatic Cancer Foundation that exists here in Kansas City, Missouri. When he passed away, many of his loved ones and his parents established that foundation. That foundation is the only local foundation that I'm aware of in Kansas City that exists. So I am here, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I know Andy would too, for all the people and their loved ones who have suffered from pancreatic cancer. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And as Andy ended all of his messages, light and love, I hope you will wear purple on World Pancreatic Cancer Day, November 16th. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We go now to our second proclamation, 5B, Small Business Saturday. Whereas the government of Leawood, Kansas celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. Whereas according to U.S. Small Business Administration, there are 33 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 62.7% of net new jobs created since 1995. And small businesses employ 46.4% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. Whereas 72% of consumers reported that Small Business Saturday 2022 made them want to shop and dine at small, independently owned retailers and restaurants all year long. Whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Peggy Dunn, Mayor of the City of Leawood, Kansas, do hereby proclaim November 25th, 2023 as Small Business Saturday. And I urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and to shop small throughout the year. And the person who requested this proclamation will have it mailed. They are not here this evening. So thank you very much. We have no presentations or recognitions this evening. We have no special business. So we move now to item 8A, consent agenda 8A through Y. And I'll ask, is there anything anyone would like to pull for discussion?
Second.
Ms. Larson, did you want to pull something?
Just A, please. As an
A?
example. Yes.
Withdraw motion.
All right, if that's all, who made the motion to approve the remainder?
Me? Move to approve?
Motion from Mr. Hazeltine.
Second.
Second from Mr. Osmond. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. 8A is accept appropriation ordinance numbers 2023-41, 2023-42, and 2023-43. Ms. Larson.
And I apologize. I meant to send a note earlier today on this, and I just got busy looking at the other materials. Page 34, the Commerce Bank statement, the September 2023 Visa purchases are $99,000 and some dollars. And I was just wondering if we have a policy to maybe break that down a little bit. We have almost $100,000 of undocumented expenses, and so that just caught my eye. I know I struggle with my credit card bill myself, and so I was just wondering if we might break that down a little bit.
Mr. Cobby's here. He can
Here
probably
he
answer
is.
that question for you.
The man of the hour. And I apologize for not reaching out earlier.
I lost the bet back there too, thanks. Don Cobby, Finance Director. Yes, I think our plan here is that we will start providing essentially two different lists. One's going to be the check register, and of course the check is paid through Commerce Bank, who has the credit card. We do have that information, the breakdown, which you can pull from the credit card system. But if we try to run it through the finance system, it requires to put each separate credit card purchase vendor into the system. So we're trying something a little bit different, but we can provide that report to you. We have all that information. Glad to do that.
Okay. Thank you for
You bet.
that. Just wanted to mention that.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Motion from Ms. Larson, second from Ms. Harrison. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. Going now to the mayor's report. Mr. Powell,
Yes.
there was something I was going to announce and show that is in my office on the side table next to my sofa.
Get it.
And I think you know what it is.
I think so.
If you don't mind, I will wait with that report till the end. Thank you. Councilmember Chuck Sipple, members Chuck Sipple and Mary Larson joined me at the Leawood Chamber ribbon cutting for University of St. Mary's new Leawood location. And as you probably know, their main campus is in Leavenworth, Kansas, and they recently celebrated their 100th anniversary, which I wasn't aware that they were that old. So this location is at 112th and Rowe Avenue, and we certainly appreciate their chamber membership and wish them much success. They have a number of advanced degrees, masters and doctorates, and lots of great technology. It's a very impressive facility. And speaking of 100 years, I had the pleasure of touring the Voigt's House, located on 103rd Street in Leawood, celebrating their 100th anniversary. And this beautiful home, as you probably know, is owned by the Grissams. But they had it open to the neighborhood. I don't know if any of the rest of you went through it, but it was very nice. I want to offer my sincere thanks to Parks, Recreation, and Arts Director Chris Claxton, to City Administrator Diane Stoddard, and to Assistant City Administrator, City Clerk Stephen Powell for their assistance as I hosted the Johnson and Wyandotte Counties Council of Mayors and Legislators for dinner and a meeting last week here in our City Hall Oak Room. Everyone was extremely complimentary about our community center. And I hope you all will note your invitation that is in front of you to the December social, which will be held this year at the Strang Reserve in Overland Park, and the address is on the card. If you would be so kind to RSVP to Stacy Stromberg, our Deputy City Clerk, versus the instructions on the card says to the mayor's office in Overland Park, but I think if you'll do it to Stacy, she'll do all of us at once. And thank you for taking those. I want to offer congratulations to Fire Battalion Chief Mike Hoffine? I'm not sure I'm saying that correctly, who's celebrating 25 years on Friday. And going back to what, thank you very much, Mr. Bell. What I was going to begin with was Regional Council Gezer Mayor Rodham Yadlin mailed me a photo album of fond memories of some of our delegation visits over the past 20 years. And she had planned to hand deliver this prior to needing to cancel her trip here due to the war that broke out. So I would like to pass this along around to you all. You will see some of your own photos in this book. So it brings back terrific memories. And I did write her back and sent her our 50th anniversary book, Leawood, A Portrait in Time, as well as our 75th book, Leawood, The Journey Continues. But it was a very thoughtful thing for her to do. And finally, I would like to mention that tomorrow is Election Day. And our right to vote is one of our greatest privileges. And I hope you will go to the polls. And I want to wish us, we have some of our candidates running for office here with us this evening. So good luck to the candidates. Thank you for sticking your necks out and running for public office. We do appreciate it. It is important. And that concludes my mayor's report. And we'll go now to item 10A, council members' report. Councilmember Phillip, traffic concerns near Brookwood Elementary on 103rd Street.
Thank you, Mayor Dunn. I'm very pleased. You'll note on your dais there was an email that was received from both Beth and Sarah about some of their concerns. I think the expression that they sometimes feel that the flashing school signs are an optional safety feature for passing traffic. I provided them with the activity of the police department in terms of enforcement and shared with them the information from David Lay about what they are entertaining in terms of trying to improve the visibility of the existing flashing signals, and have requested that by Evergy, who owns that, adding potentially an additional traffic signal on the eastbound, again, an Evergy request, and we don't know whether the configuration of the signals is conducive to doing that. In the future road work that is scheduled for capital improvements in 2026 for a mill and overlay, the Public Works staff has already been looking and evaluating that 5-year schedule of proposed improvements and have some ideas for making that a safer route. One is to direct a design engineer to evaluate the roadway to convert it from 4 lanes to 3 lanes. That's called putting the road on a diet. So there would be an eastbound, a westbound, and a center turn lane, which would then allow 5-foot bike lanes on either outside of the, which would again move the students and pedestrians further from car traffic. Also replacing the pedestrian signals with a hybrid pedestrian signal that we've been doing as we change over as part of road work in front of elementary and middle schools that flash off and on when the pedestrian activity signal goes on, and they provided a link for our citizens on how that operates. And another option, but probably one that's been looked at before and was pretty expensive, is to consider removing the retaining wall on the north side of 103rd in front of the school and moving the sidewalk 10 feet further from the roadway. But all of those thoughts, I appreciate that our skilled folks on Public Works are already thinking ahead of my thoughts and your thoughts, so that we're really all on the same page. So what I would like to do is make 2 referrals in this council report, but and we also have 2 citizens signed in. So the 2 referrals would be, one to Bike Walk, because we have, I don't know how long ago, we started our main routes to school underneath as part of our sustainability effort to make sure that we were making the major thoroughfares the best traffic flow for bike and pedestrians. And so we have already made changes there and probably 10 years ago. And so they'll want to know and get involved in the process. And referring something like this to a committee also helps to engage and educate more of our citizenry and allow more participation by the school and parents. So that's always a good thing when we refer folks, so that we have more discussion on it than is allowed here on the dais. The other recommendation would be to Public Works Committee. Julie and her team will look at that in the first of the year for the consultant selection for what would be if they proceeded after their CIP evaluation of putting the street on a diet. They then would want to have an engineering study done by a consultant to determine whether that's the appropriate plan. So I'd like to do I make those as two separate motions, or do I put them together? Or do you want to wait until you talk to the citizens?
Yeah, why don't we hear from the citizens, but I think two separate would probably, and we might want to ask, actually, Mr. Lay would be Public Works Bike Walk, I think is, oh, and there he is. I think it's Brian Anderson, is it not?
Yes, he's aware of it too.
Okay, he's aware of it too, all right. Thank you, Ms. Fella. I'm going to call on the citizens as they signed in, and if you'd come forward, please, and state your name and address for the record, and if you could keep your comments to 3 to 5 minutes, that would be appreciated. Sarah, looks like Hertz Wu, is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Hertzwu. This is Thomas Wu, my son, and we live at 9919 Lee Circle in Leawood, Kansas. Thank you to Councilwoman Phila for bringing us to the council's attention, and I'd also like to thank the Leawood Police Department. We have seen some increased police presence out there near the school zone, and I do think that that definitely helps. I'm here on behalf of my two children. My other daughter, my daughter is not here, who attend Brookwood Elementary, and my husband. We walk our kids to and from school nearly every single day. We have witnessed people speeding, people consistently running the red light in front of the school during school hours, at the crosswalk. In fact, today I witnessed someone running the red light in the morning when the crossing guard was present and escorting children across the street. And I witnessed someone after school doing the same thing. And after school, there are a lot more children who cross the street to walk home, go to their parents' cars, and someone ran the red light then also. It happens every day, every single day. I have looked at the city ordinance 14-103, and it does appear that, the city is meeting the minimum requirements of that ordinance. However, 103rd Street has been designated as a major roadway by another city ordinance. And even though there are no businesses between 103rd and State Line and 103rd and Metcalf, there is a significant amount of traffic on that road. I looked at the KDOT School Zone Program website today just to see some of their statistics. And it says that a motor vehicle traveling at 40 miles an hour will need nearly 300 feet between the car and the child to stop in time to avoid a collision. It's 197 feet for a car traveling at 30 miles an hour and 112 feet for a car traveling at 20 miles per hour. The website also states that there's an 85% chance of fatality if hit by a car traveling at 40 miles an hour and 45% at 30 miles an hour. That means that most of the children who walk to school between 103rd and Mission, traveling either direction at 35 miles an hour, have a 50% chance of being killed if they step into the street. And I can promise you there is not a lot of room on the sidewalks on that stretch of road. I'd like to ask if any of the council members, since hearing or knowing about this, have walked to school, walked that stretch of road between 103rd and Lee and 103rd and Mission, going either direction during the school hours. Okay. Have any of you talked to the crossing guard who risks his life every day to help our children cross the street? I really hope that before you make any decisions on this, that you all go out and do that. You should feel how fast it feels for a car to come at you or come up behind you at 35 miles an hour. And I can promise you, most people do not slow down until they see the red light. Sometimes they don't slow down then, or they are so close to the school zone that they are nearly on top of it. The lights are flashing, the 20-mile-per-hour sign is flashing. I really feel that 2026 for road construction is too long to wait to make some improvements. I did notice that there are a couple of improvements proposed in the short term. I'm hoping that we can find a timeline to get those done, to really see if there's some creative solutions that we can use now before a major road project happens. And I'd really like the city to consider what they can accomplish now to make it safer. You know, meeting the minimum requirements is not sufficient when it comes to child safety. I think we can all agree about that. And I would hate to have something happen when we all knew that it was an issue before we got around to making some changes. So I really ask, please, please take the time. The school zone hours are maybe 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon, and walk out there. Stand at the crosswalk by the school and see what it's like for these kids crossing the street. See how often I saw one time the crossing guard left the street, the light was red, and someone just went because he was no longer in the street. So please take some time. You will see someone run the red light every day. You will see people speed through that portion of the road. So I would really ask that all of you take time to do that. Thomas, would you like to say anything?
I'm 7 years old. I go to Brookwood.
Okay. Want to say anything about the traffic? No? Okay. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Ms. Wu, and thank you, Thomas, for coming this evening.
When he gets elected at some future date, he will be able to say he made his first public meeting and a speech at the very young age.
Right. Beth Strobel.
All right, good evening. My name is Beth Strobel. This is my daughter, Sloan Strobel. Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi. She is 8. She's in Thomas Wu's class at school, so at
Okay.
Brookwood. We live at 10223 Lee Boulevard, just right there north of the 103rd and Lee Boulevard intersection. And Sloan walks to school or bikes to school most days and to and from. And so I just want to lead with, like Sarah, thank you to our police. There's been a visible enforcement that's happened this year during school zone hours, and we really appreciate it. Also, thanks to all of you for serving on our city council, giving up your time away from families and jobs and things. So, you know, what I'm really focused on is I love all the things we're talking about for 2026. Any and all of those ideas would improve where we're at today. It's just too far in the future. And so my thought is, what can we do today that maybe doesn't cost a lot of money or cause a lot of work that has to be done to make it safer? And selfishly, with us living on Lee Boulevard, you know, when she's walking on Lee, it's very safe. There's a huge patch of grass and ditch between her and the cars. But as soon as she turns onto 103rd, immediately she's at risk. If she were to trip or her bike were to just roll over a stick from one of the many trees that the sticks drop from, she could accidentally fall into the street, and like Sarah said with some of the stats, it would be very dangerous, if not fatal for her. Also, if a driver's distracted, like many of them are, and they're driving at 40 miles an hour after coming off the interstate, and they were to lose control of their vehicle and go up onto the curb before they could correct, if the timing were wrong, again, it could be fatal. And not just for my daughter, but for any children or pedestrians that are walking to and from school during that time. So my thought is it possible to extend the school zone all the way up? It really starts really late. I mean, it's almost like you're basically at the perimeter of the school when that school zone starts. So could we extend it all the way up 103rd to Lee Boulevard? It's 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon, and if it were to save a child from injury or harm, I think it would be worth it, and it feels like something that would be worth exploring. I don't know how the rules work for school zones, but to me that feels like a workable solution that might buy us some time until we get to 2026 and some of these infrastructure projects become an option. So that's all I have to say.
All right.
Do you want to add anything? Okay, thank you for giving
Thank
us
you
a forum
both.
to share our point of view, and I think Sarah really shared a lot of great stats too that hopefully will help the council to take this matter under consideration for how we can address it.
Thank you both for coming this evening. Before we have our motion, our two motions from Ms. Phila, Mr. Lay, is there anything you want to add, or did you, I didn't know if you were thinking date certain on Public Works, for instance.
So we'd be looking at trying to go to the December meeting, the first Wednesday in December, but we would need to make sure we have a quorum first.
Okay,
So we haven't checked the quorum, but we can check that tomorrow.
all right. You want to make that motion first, Ms. Phila?
So I'd like to refer this matter to the Public Works Committee for the December meeting if quorum is available.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Phyllis, second from Mr. Azeltine. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Mr. Azeltine?
David, she said something very interesting. It sounds like the school zone starts when you're like heading on 103rd Street West. It starts right after the intersection there. Is that correct?
It starts, just throwing numbers out, about 500 feet, probably west of Lee Boulevard. So there are standards for where school zones are located as far as the manual and uniform traffic control devices. That's what
Right.
we follow, but we can review that to make sure it is in the appropriate location.
Okay.
And
Thank
then
you.
as far as the school zone beacon signs, so we have a standard that they flash 30 minutes before the school starts, and they continue flashing until 15 minutes after school begins. But we can review the pedestrian activity out there in the morning to see if that does need to be changed, and in the afternoon.
Thank you.
That'd be great. That'd be great. I feel like some of them are different, some of the schools I
So
can think of.
we're kind of going through with that policy. We began that about 5 years ago. So when we go in and update streets, we are updating the signage.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Rawlings? Sure.
Seeing as how Brookwood School is in Ward 2,
Is your mic on?
seeing as how Brookwood School's in Ward 2, which I didn't know any of this was going on, I'd appreciate that you would copy us in on this kind of situation. The next question is, on 103rd, when it comes times to either deliver the children, or especially picking up the children, 103rd Street is a gridlock with cars, people picking up their children, Pawnee, 103rd, south, I think Monongah. I think all that needs to be taken into consideration too, because I think part of the problem is, there's just a lot of traffic around there during delivery and pickup, and I see it all the time. So that may be a factor too that we need to take a look at.
Yeah, we can look at that with the Public Works Committee while we're designing 103rd Street.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. If you're ready for this one, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. And do you believe this really needs to go to a second committee, bike walk?
Well, based on our conversation, it would be more of an informational, or perhaps we can do that at a later date. Because they do the main routes to school, it was just so that they could be aware of what the conversation was and what.
Okay, all right.
So the second referral would be to the Bike Walk Committee, because as some of the work we've done in the past has been based on the main routes to school, trying to identify the streets where most of the kids are using to go to school. We started walking buses at the time. So again, I think they'd be very interested in what's going on and supporting the parents in their efforts.
Okay, that's a motion from Ms. Villa. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Hazeltine. Any discussion on this? Is there a date certain? Do we know? We don't know when they meet. So at the next convenient meeting date.
Right.
Okay, we'll just say that.
Or they're welcome to attend the Public Works Committee, and we could bundle it.
Yeah, that's a good idea, too.
Bundle? I like that, bundle.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I'm not available the first meeting in December, I'm sorry. Not that it can't carry on without me, but I can tell you, I just looked, I'm not available. I'm sorry, December. Thank you.
All right, all in favor for this referral, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, Ms. Phila, for bringing that to everyone's attention, and thank you to the residents and your children who joined you. Going now to 10B, Councilmember Osmond, Gaza Region needs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Earlier today, I sent out an email to Stephen and Stacy, and they summarized in a one-page document. I think by now everyone knows about the Hamas terrorist attack that happened on October 7th, 2023, that resulted in over 1,400 innocent civilian deaths and taking 240 hostages. The conflict in the region has resulted in extraordinary needs of the Gaza region. Today I'm asking the City of Leawood to assist our sister city of the Gaza region. This will be put in a synopsis in our minutes, but I want to talk from the heart for a quick second. After our last city council meeting, the Gaza region contacted several people, the mayor, myself, Stacy Belzer, asking how they could get assistance from our municipality. It is no different than if there were a tragic event, a tornado, a fire, a hurricane in another state, another city, in which Leawood has always been the first city to designate their fire, their police, their resources, whatever they can to assist another community. My firm belief is a sister city is just that, a city in which we are partners with them through thick and thin. And yes, we do have great times, a la that book, and there are great pictures of the liaisons and delegations going over to Israel, or the Israelis coming over here. But there's also some needs, and a prime example was Elon, our other sister city. During the pandemic, they immediately jumped on when we were all in our homes and trying to figure out what to do. Elon shipped over masks and other items that Leawood residents and Leawood staff could safely at the time utilize the resources here in the city that we might not otherwise have. We have a budget each year for Elon and for Gaza of roughly $15,000. Sometimes those funds are utilized, sometimes those funds are not. It's not something that rolls over. I see this as an extraordinary opportunity or extraordinary circumstance where we as the sister city need to help the Gaza region for some of those needs. What they've asked for are anything from bulletproof vest, knife-proof vest for local residents who are civilians that are roving the area as the first line of defense because their police officers, their other resources have been called up to active duty and have gone away. We also know that in COVID, one of the things that as a parent we wanted to do was get our kids back in school. And we tried to figure out the safest way possible. Well, in Israel, the same exact thing is happening. Having a sense of normality and a day-to-day activity is most important. And they've asked for things like bullet or bomb-proof shelters, because but for that, kids will not be able to go back to school safely. The Jewish Federation of Kansas City and Jewish Federation International are in the process of raising millions of dollars. They help facilitate a seamless transaction with no administrative fees. All the money goes over to Israel. And one of the things that I'm very proud of is the Jewish Federation of Kansas City has adopted a policy of a percentage of their overall funds will go directly to Ramla and to Gezer region, which are the two sister cities in Kansas City, Missouri, and Leawood. I'm also proud to say that when they announced this campaign, at the very beginning, one of the first individuals or first entities that immediately, without hesitation, donated to Federation was our own Church of the Resurrection. They have such a great relationship with not only the state of Israel, but the two communities. And so what I'm asking here today is for everyone to think about it, to talk openly now about our policy for the funds that we currently have that will go away on December 31st, and in turn work with individuals to getting this money so that they could buy resources and humanitarian needs for our sister city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osmond. Mr. Hazeltine.
I would be in favor of and would be willing to make a motion to refer this to staff because we are close to the end of the year and there might be some way that we could help budget-wise. So,
I'll second that.
yeah. So.
With all due respect, these are things that are needed immediately, that things that cannot wait, that we have talked about internally between staff and other individuals for 2 to 3 weeks. And what I'm bringing tonight is a recommendation to utilize some of those funds. There's a individual in the audience. Her name is Andy Mylans. She is with the Jewish Federation of Kansas City. She can also explain, if need be, what is going on between the Kansas City and national community here and funds going overseas and where those funds actually go to.
I didn't realize you'd already had those talks with the staff, so I would withdraw my motion and suggest that work on it in coordination with the mayor and try to get something done on it.
Or are you making a motion?
But I think what we need to do, at least from my opinion, is we have to come up with what is an appropriate dollar amount to authorize to staff to coordinate with the Gezer region.
Okay.
Make that motion.
I think that that's appropriate for you to make the motion, but I wonder if we want to hear from Ms. Mylans first, just so you can, is it Mylans? Did I say that correctly? Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you all for considering this.
And if you could just elaborate a little bit more on Mr. Osmond's comments about your assistance to Ramla and Gezer.
Sure.
And so that if there was a donation to the Jewish Federation, then those dollars would flow.
Sure. So just for the context that Mr. Osmond put out there, the Jewish Federations of North America, as our national organization, has raised already, I think it's over $600 million now. They announced a $500 million campaign. They don't talk about numbers anymore because the money is just coming. The fair share for the Jewish Federation of Greater Kansas City, we were asked to raise $3.5 million, which is a big lift because our annual campaign is $5.25 million. So we are at about $2.6 million that we have raised within the last 3 weeks or so. And our board of directors, as Mr. Osmond indicated, has designated 10% of those funds that we raise will be allocated directly to the communities of the Gezer region and of the city of Ramla. Those are our two partnership communities that, in addition to the work you do with Gezer and that Kansas City, Missouri does with Ramla, we also have our own relationship with those communities. We allocate funds every year for their ongoing programs. We have a staff person in Israel who works with those communities. She is our liaison and tells us what's happening on the ground and what those needs are. So we have gotten multiple requests from both of those communities for funding for immediate humanitarian needs. From Ramla, they've asked us for funds for food vouchers and for protective vests, which are for civilian security patrols. In the Gezer region, they have asked us also for funds for protective vests, for protective barriers that the civilian security that sit outside neighborhoods can use for protection. And they have now also asked us for these portable shelters that can be attached to schools. They're specifically for kindergarten. We had a meeting this morning with our staff person who was explaining that you can have an elementary school and all the kids can run to the shelter, except they run over the kindergartners. And so the kindergartners need their own shelter. So in order for them to get back to school, they need these shelters. They're incredibly expensive. They're $30,000 each, and they're asking for 5 or 6 of them, which we can't do. But we would like to help them get one. So the way these funding would work, we can guarantee that any funds that come from Lee would go directly to Gezer. They don't have to go, we may count them in our total of dollars that we raised, but they don't have to be, they don't have to go into our main pot and then 10% taken out for us to spend. We can do them as a direct pass-through to the Gezer region. We send all of our money to NGOs. We do not fund municipalities. If you can fund the municipality, we can also help you figure that out. If you want to send money directly to the Gezer municipality, if that works. For us, we send it directly to NGOs. None of the money that we send ever, and certainly not now, ever goes to military equipment or military function. None of it goes to the IDF. It's all for urgent humanitarian needs. We're not allowed to send to the military. We don't want to send to the military. It's not our job and not our responsibility to send to the military. So it all goes to humanitarian needs.
Well, I think it makes far more sense to go through the Jewish Federation. You were our partners on the ground when the relationship was begun 20 years ago. Todd Stetner was the executive director at the time and was extremely helpful and supportive. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could take the prerogative of the microphone, I just want to say a very quick thank you to Mr. Osman and to you, Mayor Dunn, and to the police department who helped us have a candlelight vigil here on Saturday night to honor the hostages who are kept by Hamas. It was incredibly meaningful, especially to our local Israeli community. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being here tonight. Mr. Osman, did you? No, I'm not. Oh, Mr. Sipple.
I had a question for the lady that was just up.
Okay.
How quickly can the dollars be put to use? I mean, if we would get money over there in a week or two, how quickly would these items be able to be purchased? And can they get them in Israel, or do they have to ship them on a boat from Spain, or how?
No, they can order them immediately. As soon as we tell them that the funds are available, they can order them, and we, as soon as you get it to us, we will transfer it to the Jewish Federations of North America, who will transfer it to Israel.
So it's a couple of days?
It's as quick as it possibly can be.
And then the people in Gezer, how soon would they realize to get the bulletproof vest or the knife-proof vests and all? Would that take a week, or does that? We hear a lot about inventory shortages and backlogs, and they need it right now.
Yeah, I believe the vests, if they haven't already arrived, they're on their way.
Okay.
They went ahead and ordered the vests, and they are prepared to hit go on the shelters as soon as we tell them that we can fund one, and they'll have it very quickly.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Larson.
I would be in favor of doing this, as I'm looking at the figures that Andrew has provided in his document. Since 2017, we have budgeted $15,000 each year for the Gezer sister city, and which totals, if my math is correct, $105,000, even though it doesn't roll over. We could have spent that each year, and of that $105,000 we could have spent each year since 2017, we've spent roughly about $2,500. This is our sister city. If we want relationships with our sister cities to be meaningful, and this is the time to do it. And I support sending the $15,000 from Leawood. And Andrew hasn't mentioned it yet, but I think that there's another opportunity for us to donate personally from our own funds to the Leawood Foundation, and who would also send that money for our friends in the Geyser region who are in desperate need of staying safe. So I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Harrison?
Thank you. It stands to reason, since we aren't in the planning phases of a trip next year, that we're going to have another $15,000 as of January 1st. And it stands to reason that we won't have a reason to spend that. They probably won't be visiting.
No, well, they might not be, but the plan was that they were coming
Right, and
in the spring.
we were going to have a lovely friendship dinner, and so we could maybe withhold a few grand from the 2024 budget, but it stands to reason we might be safe in January having a conversation again about using the 2024 budget for the Geyser sister city to send it if it's needed, and I suspect sadly that it will be.
Well, I think it's appropriate to have the motion be for the 2023 dollars.
Is that a motion?
I'd like to go ahead and move that we dedicate the $15,000 that it is in our budget for our Geyser sister city to be donated to the Jewish Federation with the express desire that go directly to Geyser for humanitarian needs, which include the bullet and knife-proof vests and/or bomb shelters for the kindergartners or children.
Second the motion.
Motion from Ms. Larson, and I think maybe Mr. Rawlings possibly seconded. Any further discussion on this? Mr. Sipple.
This might be a question for Mr. Cobby. Looking at these numbers for 2023, we had a $15,000 budget. We got a refund or something of $1,700, and then there, over on the right, there is another $5,000 adjustment. So how much money here in November is in the pot? I just wonder if we need to limit ourselves to 15, or we could push it up to 20.
Or if it's actually been adjusted to 5.
Well, I hope that's not the
That's how
case.
I'm reading it.
So the easy answer here is there's really 3 pots. There's one for each sister city of $15,000 each, and then there's $5,000 additional that's miscellaneous for programs and other stuff that's there. So $35,000 total is budgeted every year. And then, so you have the 15 available and the other 5. There's no commitments to any of that at this time.
So typically in November and December, Don, I mean, are those things, is that $5,000 adjustment factor tapped into, or, I mean?
It would just go unspent. I mean, it's out of the general fund. So if it's not spent, it just goes back in those funds go back in the general fund the next year.
So we could modify the motion.
So we could modify the motion to maybe increase our contribution.
Yeah, you should, 20,000 is available, and
Yeah.
and then whatever, yeah. And I'm not sure what other plans are over Island, but I don't know, so.
Usually towards the end of the year, we start incurring some expenses for the Elan sister city for their annual dinner that we host out at Vista. But it's usually, I mean, you can see the history of the spending. It's usually not.
Yeah, it looks like
a
it
lot of
usually
money.
stays there. So I would like to amend the motion, if I can, to make it $20,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to amend to make this, instead of 15,000, to make it 20,000. Is there any motion from Mr. Sipple, second from Mr. Azeltine? Any discussion on the amendment Ms. Kane?
Well, based upon this conversation and this information, if and based upon the history that's written here, I get that Elon might be asking for some funds, but if there's 15, 15, and 5, obviously that makes 35. I wouldn't be opposed to the whole 35, but knowing that Elon might come in perhaps at 20 turns into 25. Again, this is extraordinary circumstances, and this controversy, or whatever the correct word is, isn't going anywhere anytime fast. So I would not be opposed at all to, if we're limited to that 25, give or take, I would be all for making that number 25. Or as high as we can get it
We might
tonight,
wanna
if that's
just-
administratively possible.
We might just want to withdraw the original motion
Both,
and make
both the amendment and the
Yeah.
original, and do know that Elon will be utilizing some of those funds when they do the Lunar New Year.
Understood. So
Yeah.
asking for the entire 35 is not wise.
Right.
But perhaps if we're looking at these numbers, the highest, well, does this mean that they've already asked for almost 5,000 for 2023? It's already been spent? Thank you, Don. And then there's likely more between now and the end of the year. So if the likely more was based upon, anyway, it turns into odd numbers of thousands, but still, as much as we can humanly do, I think, for
I think
this-
it needs to be a number
Around-
specific, though.
25 sounds good. I think that leaves room for it.
Do you want to make it that motion? We've got a lot of people
You'd have
making
three
motions.
motions on the table
Well,
if
we
you did
We're
that.
took
just
off the
changing the
other two.
numbers, though.
We
I'll
took
make the
the other two
motion.
off.
I'll make the motion for the dollar figure being the 15 for Gezer, the 5 from the miscellaneous, and 5 from the remaining Elon budget for.
Will you make sure your mic is
You're-
on?
I don't think your mic, well, it's
I'm
on,
not
but
talking.
she's not
So
talking.
the motion is for utilizing the
Why don't you just say the total amount?
25,000.
Second.
All right, motion from Ms. Villa, a second from Ms. Kane for 25,000, and it would be, as you were saying, 15 and the 5, which comes to 20, and then an additional 5 from Elon's budget
Correct.
to make it 25. Further discussion?
In the not-too-distant future, Elon might have their own problems.
Yeah, right.
I just want to say something completely off subject. Israel is very near and dear to a lot of us. I'm going to embarrass someone, and I was 18 years old. I was stupid, I was naive, and I had 40 other friends that went over to Israel for the first time. We had just a phenomenal time for 6.5 weeks, and of a learning experience, but also a bonding experience. And the two individuals that took us and chaperoned us, that were 22 and 23 years respectively, was Jay Lewis, which is the CEO now of the Jewish Federation, and Andy Mylans. So I want to thank you very much for my first experience. Thank you.
Oh, cool.
She's not going to give us any stories until the meeting's over.
I hope not.
Stories are about Jay, so it's okay.
All right, thank you for sharing that. Any other discussion? All right, if not, all in favor of this $25,000 donation to the Jewish Federation for humanitarian purposes to assist our sister city, the Gaza region of Israel, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, it's approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Osmond, for your advocacy here, and thank you, Ms. Mylans, appreciate it. And our thoughts and prayers continue to be with all the folks in Israel. Moving now to 11, City Administrator Report. Ms. Stoddard, do you have any report?
I do not, Mayor, thank you.
All right, thank you. Now going to item 12A, a staff report by Chris Claxton. I don't see her. Oh, there she is. All right, thank you. And thank you for doing all the follow-up answers for the questions from our work session. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I believe we effectively captured all the questions that you had from the work session, and myself and Brett Hagen from Continental were able to contact the artist and get the information for the questions and then the answers that he provided. So I don't know if there's any follow-up questions. We have not had any further communication regarding these questions with the artist since that time, but we may be able to enhance some of them a little bit if in fact we do know the answer more than what you see there. So.
Well, it looked to me like you got a lot of great information from the artist and your follow-up, so thank you for that. Any other questions, Ms. Kane?
Yes, the first thing that caught my eye, or one of the things that caught my eye, is on the back page, where it says piers for foundation in, to the hard right, where it says cost estimate notes. It said there was a foundation design without piers at Lee and Mission that could decrease the cost by $48,000. I don't recall hearing that there was an option, or when Brett was here, that I thought they were going to be 25 feet deep or something like that. I didn't understand there was a pierless option at that location. So that was new news to me, and maybe I'm misunderstanding.
So I'm going to let Public Works Director David Lay speak to that. David is actually the person that put this chart together for you as a secondary piece of information in your packet.
Public Works hired a structural engineer to review the site and look at the geotech, and according to them, they feel like it is possible to not have piers at the site. Since it is an art piece, they're allowing for a 1-inch settlement difference in the 20-foot, so that's something we are working with Continental on to see if there's potential for a different foundation.
Well, I mean, that's $50,000. That's a whole bunch of money. So that would be, but this is news to us, right? That this is the first time this information's been passed to us, right?
That's correct.
Yes. So what you're saying here is that site, because it's an art piece, might not require the piers, but why would it require the piers at City Hall or Town Center if not there on what we know is fill?
So when I talked to the structural about it, at the site at 103rd and Lee, they just recommended digging down 5 to 6 feet. That gets you beneath the manure, gets you to the in situ soils, and from that point, he said the soils there could support the structure. At at Town Center and Row, and then at the temporary art site, we know those areas are fill, but they're 15 feet of fill. And when I brought that up to him, he said, if you get more than 10 feet, it's going to be more cost effective to do piers than it is to continue digging down to the in situ material. That's his opinion without looking at a geotech report.
Well, that's good news. So we'll obviously at some point halfway soon know that answer.
Hopefully we will have that answer in 4 weeks.
4 weeks. And then my only other question right now is, you guys are going to get on top of me when I ask this question, but it talks about red, green, blue, and amber lights on page 2, but then it talks about, in addition, the artist will send colors of all local sports teams as well as pink and purple, so he understands the light colors we will be needed. So for the pancreatic thing we heard tonight is purple, and pink, of course, is breast cancer, and there are wonderful local sports teams that are purple. I just want to verify that we are not just going to have red, green, and blue, and amber. Is that everybody's understanding here? Because that is not what we said from day one.
I think they're saying to know in advance, the sooner the better.
Right.
If you can come up with your colors.
Of pink and purple,
Right.
which is what it says here, in addition to those 4. I don't know that there's another color that we need, but I don't want to exclude anybody.
No, we sent, so our major sports teams, Sporting, Chiefs, Royals.
Right.
Who else did we send?
Yeah,
current.
Casey Current
Yeah.
is pink, right?
Well, their teal is their main
Teal,
color, but,
well.
so can he do every single one of those colors? I'm not sure, but I think the main thing we wanted him to understand was that we were looking for more than just those 4.
Right,
Or 3 primary essentially, and then the 1 amber as
Right.
well.
right.
Yes, that's correct.
So he's clear that we don't want just those 4.
I would say so, yes, because
Okay.
we sent him literally the logos with some of the colors of all those. Now, we didn't send all the college teams because we could go on forever about
Yeah, of
those, but,
course.
yeah.
Thank you.
But he certainly validated that they twinkle.
I saw the twinkle
I hope you
part.
saw that.
And then I also read that they can be more than one color, woo, right? So,
right.
Oh, that was my last question, was, we're going to have the ability to manage the colors and the timing and all that stuff from here, right? This
That's
isn't going to
correct.
be
Yeah.
him, I mean, once it's here and installed, it's under our control and our
That'll be
power.
staff-driven, yes.
Okay, perfect, that's all from me, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Sippel and Mr. Osmond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One thing that's not on the chart that Chris has on the back page is the delay we would incur if we went to the temporary site or to Town Center and Row because of going through an interact meeting with the neighbors and rerouting this thing through the Planning Commission again. And what do we think, Chris? That's 2 months, 3 months?
I think it would probably be somewhere between 2 and 3 months.
So we would have to incur storage charges, assuming that the artist finished up by the end of the year.
Yes.
We would probably have to store the thing for 12 weeks or so, either in New Orleans or here. So that kind of throws a little different complexion on this because the way this chart looks, it's the costs that we have not already incurred, the future costs are all about the same. But the one thing is going to delay it by 2 or 3 months. Am I reading this right?
Yeah, it's on the chart, it's the 6th one down, temporary storage of art. And I assumed that it would be about 6 months because they would actually, we'd have to go out and get geotech report. Continental would have to go out and resurvey it. So by the time we circle back, do all that work again, and then have the interact, and then make application to Planning Commission, City Council, I just assumed it would take probably 6 months.
So it'd be the 4th of July if we picked the 2 sites, not Mission and Lee.
Correct.
And if we did pick Mission and Lee, when do you think the art piece could be installed, ready to go?
April or May.
Really? So it's only a couple months difference. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Osmond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was gone the last half of the work session last week. But Julie, you brought up a point about the colors and the lights, and I know that I was leaving as that occurred. What I don't understand is in today's technology, virtually everything downtown is on an LED system where you've got an app on your phone, and if you look at you get on a computer and you have a color wheel, and you can literally pick whatever shade you want, and then the LED light turns that color. I want to be absolutely certain that that is the technology that we're getting versus having 4 or 5 different colors, because you don't know if we want a light green or dark green, or if we change our logo or design for the city of Leawood. We've got 2 different colors up there. What?
There's 3, actually, just so you know.
But we want to make sure that we have the proper color, in addition to KU and K-State and Mizzou and Sporting and
Oregon Ducks, green.
there you go. So that's something that from a fundamental standpoint, we absolutely need to know and have is this technology, rather than just buy a light bulb or buy an LED that has 4 or 5 different shades.
So we'll have to ask that specific question. So what we did with this, what's in your packet, is address the questions that were asked, and that wasn't one of them, but that's a good question.
Okay.
So we'll have to reach back out to the artist and ask him
And there's-
specifically.
Also ask, there should be an app or something in the lighting system that a person can control from their computer. Changes the time, changes the color, changes the strobe. That's what we need to know.
Okay, we'll certainly ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Ms. Larson?
I continue to be concerned about the installation costs for Mission and Lee, specifically referencing the parking lot cost. The sheet provided for tonight's meeting says $52,000. But looking back over the materials, I've spent a lot of time with this today. May 15th of 2023, the parking lot cost was estimated as $89,000. On June 5th of 2023, it was estimated to be $100,000. On August 7th of 2023, it was estimated to be $135,000. And then as recently as the Planning Commission meeting on September the 26th of 2023, we were still at the $135,000 number. And all of a sudden it's $52,000 when we're comparing these three different sites. So that's my first question. And then at the top of the page on the geotech, we've already spent the money on the Lee and Mission Boulevard, but, there's no credit, that's not factored against that location. And when I voted against spending that money, it's on the staff's record. Staff stated that the purpose of the phases was in part so that the city may want to do something with this site, even if it is not this art piece. The idea was to find out the cost to do just a base work for anything. Like we needed to do this anyway, regardless of the 75th anniversary art piece. And there's just so many moving targets. And then, we have the structural engineer come in with an opinion this last week with a different advice than what was given by our hired Continental engineering consultant. And we repeatedly heard that we needed these 4 piers because of the site and I won't take the time to read from the record all the information about that. And we are stewards of the taxpayers' money. I feel like this project has gone awry, and I don't feel good about it. I'm hoping that the policy that we have in place will be changed going forward. We just can't operate like this. So I'm not critical very often. I don't think I've ever really been critical of staff. And I hope it never happens again. But this doesn't work. And we lost 11 months. The first meeting in, May of 15th, we approved the project in July 5th of 2022. We didn't receive the first installation costs until that were solid till May 15th of 2023. We lost 11 months. And now we're making decisions because we don't want to lose any time. And never mind, we lost 11 months. And to me, this is unacceptable. I don't like saying these things, but that's how I feel.
Ms. Phillip?
You drive a hard bargain, Mary. But I do agree with you. You have made a difference in terms of the deep digging that the staff has done. But I think there's a major structural issue with the process that you're alluding to. And I think that we need to ask going forward that the installation costs have to be part of our arts budget, because I can always, if I don't have to pay for the car, I can go anywhere in the world, the costs are not covered, right? I mean, so I think if we change the process so that that has to be an inclusive part of the cost analysis before the recommendations brought forward, then we won't have those going two different separate tracks like they have before. I think, would you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I would ask that the staff and certainly Julie, who's very familiar with the process, we figure out how to change the wording and the funding so that those tracks come together or certainly intersect sooner in the process. In the meantime, I would like to make a motion to...
Well, now, this is not, this is just for the report. We haven't moved to the committee
sorry. I
recommendation.
thought this was all one thing. Okay.
I do want to say, though, I had a conversation with our Arts Council Chair and our Art and Public Places Initiative Chair, who came to our governing body work session on this as they were leaving. And they're feeling like a little bit of criticism from all the discussion. They don't feel like their role should have been to have a parking lot priced to go with this piece of art. We've already said we're probably not doing the parking lot now at any rate. But there's some things that came about because of this size of piece. We've never had a piece 40 feet wide and 28 feet tall and 300,000 pounds, did I hear, for just the base. A lot of things have gone into making this a very expensive placement of this piece of art, and they were feeling a little bit of remorse that it's being put upon, and they did their job to select
Yes,
a
I
beautiful
agree. I do
piece.
not hold our volunteers, our arts volunteers responsible. They are volunteering their time and expertise, and I'm very grateful for what they have contributed
I'm
to the
glad
process.
to hear you say that, because I
Absolutely.
think it's very
Absolutely.
important for them to know how greatly we appreciate them.
Absolutely.
And they did a wonderful job.
I concur with Mary.
So, Mr. Eseltine?
It's also important for the staff to understand that we don't blame them either, because we've had this policy in place for many, many years in terms of the standard cost for installation, landscaping, you know, whatever else is needed. And I think it's $15,000. It's always worked. And it's unfortunate that we got caught in this almost unforeseeable situation. Regardless, the art piece is going to be delivered, and the artist is going to be paid. And, I mean, I've already expressed my opinion on the site before, but, yeah, I have absolutely no problem with excluding the parking lot, or ever including it, for that matter. You know, it's unfortunate after the delays that we've already experienced that we have an additional delay of 2 to 3 months because we can't agree what site it's going to be on. And from what I can see, there's not an appreciable difference in any of these 3 sites, but the one significant difference is that the first site has been already engineered, and those other sites are going to have to be engineered, and I guess put electrical on one of them. And I just think this site would be so iconic, being there right on the interstate, because, you know, people are going to say, oh my God, what is that? Oh, that's Leewood's latest art piece. And having, you know, I'm thinking like Monday Night Football and having this thing lit up in red, or if the Royals, you know, go back to the World Series, having it lit up in blue, or
When they go back.
in 3 years.
You're pretty optimistic.
It's just unfortunate, but it's nothing, you know, it's spilt milk. And we need to decide whether we're going to cry about it or we're going to move on. And there's really, you know, the piece is coming. And as I've said numerous times, I like this site.
Any other questions before we move on? Ms. Kane?
I can tell you that even before this part, that the Arts Council and the Appy Council have been reviewing their procedures, number one. So that's going to be coming to us before long. And I too think that they did their job and did it well, and I've said that multiple times. But ultimately, I said it at the work session, and I'll say it again. The council will ultimately decide where some of this funding comes from. So we'll, at some point, I mean, that's what it says here, I think maybe have some, I hope we have some input as far as these extra funds and where they're coming from, what pockets they're coming from. But I don't think this is crying over spilt milk. I think this is doing our job as stewards of the money. We did not know, we had no way of knowing, either did Arts for that matter, that it was going to be this kind of a price tag. So for us not to have taken a pause and to find out, is this indeed, I think in the end, I think you're right, James, in the end, it's not appreciably different, but we didn't know that until staff and all of us had the chance to review it. So that was the end result, but that was us doing our due diligence and us doing our job, and doing our job well with respect to the taxpayers' money. So I think that was time well spent, and I, once again, appreciate us taking our responsibility careful. Thank you.
And here, I think we all do.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you for the great follow-up with the staff report, and we'll move now to 13. Committee recommendations. 13A is an ordinance approving a rezone from agricultural to planned recreational, preliminary plan and final plan for Leawood City Park, Public Art, Reaching Art Piece, located north of Lee Boulevard and east of Mission Road. And this was continued from our October 16th governing body meeting. Mr. Klein, you're actually listed on this. Do you have any comments?
No, I think the Planning Commission did recommend unanimously as far as for approval of the application. So.
All right, thank you.
Mayor,
Ms. Bennett.
since there was already a motion to approve that failed, there wasn't any action taken, but the motion to approve failed. If somebody wants to renew the motion, it could be made by anybody. They can move to renew the motion to approve in light of the information that you all have received at the work session and since that time. If you do not, you have the same options you have with any zoning. You could remand, you can deny, you can continue. You can add or subtract stipulations and like that. But the motion to approve or the motion to renew the motion is a simple majority.
So the language in italics, kind of in the middle of the summary, or at the bottom of the summary, that would be an appropriate motion, would it not? Or does it doesn't have to even be that specific?
It's something similar to that, yes. If there
Something
have been
similar.
other factors that have influenced someone's decision, they can
Okay.
do that, yeah.
And I don't know if we need to, it's on the record, but I think the idea of the app that controls the lights, the way you described them. I mean, I'll bet that's how the downtown Marriott and all of them. do that. Yeah. So, okay.
Mayor, I would move to renew the motion after reviewing the additional information from staff in our work session to renew the October 16th motion to approve this item.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Harrison and second from Ms. Phila. Any other discussion from anyone? I guess we've had a lot of discussion. We've had, how long was our work session? 3
Months
hours?
of
or-
discussion.
All right, since there's no further discussion, roll call, please.
Could you repeat your motion again just one more time?
Oh, sure.
Well-
Let's see. I think I said I would renew the motion to approve the rezoning after staff and reviewing at our work session on October 30th. I would renew the October 16th motion to approve this item. Does that work? Does that work?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Councilmember Phila,
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings,
Aye.
Councilmember Sippel,
Nay.
Councilmember Kane,
Aye.
Councilmember Osman,
Aye.
Councilmember Larson,
Nay.
Councilmember Harrison,
Aye.
and Councilmember Azeltine.
Aye.
All right, the motion is approved. And I know this is a 75th anniversary piece, and I know it will be going in our 76th year. But I hope those of us here that are going off the council will be invited to your dedication of the 75th anniversary piece. So,
No doubt.
and thank you all for your hard work on this, and certainly those of you who are liaisons to all these arts groups, thank you too. We hope it goes smoothly here henceforth. We have no old business. We go now to new business 15A. This would be to schedule a special governing body meeting on Monday, November 20th, 2023, at 6:30 p.m., and the holiday lighting ceremony will take place at 5:30 p.m. that night.
So moved?
Second.
Motion from Ms. Phila and second from Mr. Eseltine. And as discussion, I was pointed it out to me from Councilmember Rawlings that there is something going on at 7:15 that night.
Correct.
So hopefully you might be able to partake in some of that. So all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. 15B is scheduled governing body work session on Monday, December 4th, 2023, at 5:30 p.m. to discuss the city property at 96th and Lee. Mr. Osmond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know that Ms. Phila has asked for this, and from my perspective, I want nothing more than to figure this thing out, and we've been working on it for close to 14 years. One of the accomplishments that Deborah and I had was approving the fire station for Fire One and getting the men and women over to a new complex here in the next couple weeks. That being said, we do have an election coming up, and we do have a new council member coming on in Ward 1 that this is happening in. And what's important for that new council member when they get on is to be part of something and to represent their district. And it would be a shame if we have a work session in December in which, I hate to say I'm a lame duck, but I want to make sure that a new voice is heard at the same time. And, I don't think anything is going to happen between now and next month. And if we do approve anything, we do have the right to change it, or the next council has the right to change it a month from now. So my thought was to push this off until after the new council is situated in January.
Ms. Phila, did you want to comment?
I will defer to, I wanted to make sure you got a chance after 15 years. And James, I know he likes to have work sessions, so I wanted to have.
I want to speak to that issue.
One more for him, but if that's the feeling of the council, we can move that, but.
Mr. Eseltine?
I have developed this reputation for despising work sessions, and just for the record, 14 years on this, very early on, maybe even the first or second work session, definitely by the second, there is a record of me suggesting that, hey, why don't we just get the fire station done and then we can worry about the rest of it. So just for the record, I don't hate work sessions, just 14 or whatever years on one. But anyways, I'm okay with, if you want to defer it, it's your word, that's fine. But I just wanted to go on record that I would have attended that and loved it.
See, now you don't have to.
I honestly believe we might have reached consensus.
On delaying the meeting?
No, I mean, the reason we've had so many work sessions is lack of consensus at the end. But I had confidence we were going to reach consensus this time. However, I totally understand your logic on waiting until there's a...
If this were in a different district that had 2 council members that were going to be on for the next term, but I don't think it's appropriate for me rolling off. And something that we don't have a lot of things in District 1 that we have to talk about. We've done Ranch Mart, we've done Brook Beatty. This is something that a new
You've
council...
got Leawood Village, don't forget.
That is true.
But, you've let it be known that you want a train.
Yes,
And-
absolutely.
And I think everybody's heard that, so.
I am happy to come back and promote the train park.
And I'm happy
There's about a
to,
5-inch stack of record to look through for anybody
Yeah.
that wants to.
All right, so this is on the agenda. Do we have to have a motion to not have it?
No, dies for lack of
Or we
motion.
can just simply,
Notation.
if there's agreement that we will not have this work session, I'm not seeing anyone in opposition.
No.
So all right.
I'm mildly in opposition.
I would prefer to do it, but that's okay. We just change, the only thing that requires changing the Monday meeting to a 7 o'clock. We're not having a work
Oh,
session.
yes, right. If we're not going to have the work session, it would be scheduled governing body meeting on Monday, December 4th at 7 p.m.
Move to approve.
Motion from Mr. Eseltine. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Harrison. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. And 15D is scheduled governing body meeting on Monday, December 18th, 2023 at 7 p.m.
Move to approve?
Second?
Motion from Ms. Phyllis, second from Mr. Rawlings. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. And having no further business to come before this body, we are adjourned. Thank you.